Have you ever, like, I don't know, whispered a wish or something to something that couldn't possibly hear you? Like a tree, a rock, maybe even just the wind.
Hmm.
And what if that little wish, that unspoken promise, what if that set off this whole chain of events, like magic, betrayal, and a journey you never could have imagined? Welcome to Iranian Things. I'm Kiyamars.
And I'm Tenaz.
And we are here to delve into, well, all those captivating and often really overlooked parts of Iranian culture. Forget the headlines. We're here for, well, the whispers, the folklore, the shadows, the mythology, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of the truly strange.
Right, exactly. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into this remarkable story, actually. One of you lovely listeners shared it with us.
Oh, that's right.
It's a story just rimming with heartfelt desires, right? And these seemingly inanimate objects with this incredible power, these magical transformations that, they defy logic. And as always with these ancient stories, they offer some really profound insights into what it means to be human. So we're going to unpack it together, not just to follow the exciting twists and turns, but to understand why these stories resonated back then and what they might still tell us today.
Yeah. And the story at the heart of our exploration today centers on this woman, longing, yearning for a child. And in her desperation, she makes a nazar, a vow, to a seemingly lifeless tree.
Hmm.
And from this simple act, this whole extraordinary chain of events starts to unfold for her daughter, Bibi Nagar. We're going to trace the initial miracle, the eerie encounter at the dry stump, the bestowal of these magical gifts, the sting of betrayal, and ultimately Bibi Nagar's arduous path to resilience and her final triumph. And really crucially, we'll be looking at the underlying morals and that rich symbolism woven throughout this truly compelling narrative. Okay, so let's begin at the very beginning with this woman and her deep longing for a child.
It's such a powerful opening, isn't it? This image of a woman facing, the sorrow of childlessness, turning to nature, to an object for solace and for hope. And the choice of a dry tree, it's particularly evocative, right?
Yeah,
It suggests barrenness, mirroring her own, perceived condition.
exactly. And in this moment of intense hope, she makes this nazar, this vow. It's important for our listeners to understand that a nazar, it's not just like a casual promise.
Right.
It carries so much weight, so much obligation within the culture. And her vow was very specific. If she were blessed with a daughter, that daughter would dedicate her life, herself, to serving the tree. If
Wow.
a son was born, he would become its servant. It's like a complete offering of her potential child to this arboreal entity.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the depth of her desire and the perceived power of this act?
Yeah.
The community likely understood the gravity of such a promise, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And as fate would have it, she was indeed blessed with a daughter. So years go by. This daughter, Bibi Nagar, she grows up in the shadow of this, well, unspoken vow. And one day she's with two other girls, fetching water, just a mundane task that's about to become anything but when they approach that same dry stump. And this is where the story, I think, takes a truly strange turn.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? All of a sudden, this voice comes from the dry, seemingly inert, dead piece of wood.
Right.
And it's not just any voice. It's specifically addressing the one whose mother made a vow.
Mm.
It's like a targeted message, almost as if the tree itself is aware of this long-ago promise. What do you make of that? The tree seemingly holding on to this vow, this promise, for so long.
It is fascinating. In folklore, natural elements, they often possess this deeper significance. Sometimes they're conduits for supernatural forces, or they embody this sort of collective memory.
Oh, interesting.
This dry stump, it could symbolize dormant potential or the enduring nature of promises made.
Right.
And notice how this seeming small initial promise sets off this like chain reaction. It really highlights how interconnected everything is in folklore.
That's such a great point. And Bibi Nagar, naturally, she's totally bewildered by this.
Of course.
And she and her friends try to figure out who the voice is meant for. She even changes her position among them. But no matter where she stands, the voice repeats the same phrase, eventually singling out Bibi Nagar, regardless of her location.
Right.
It's as if this entity is inexorably drawn to her, like fate.
And what's remarkable, is that unwavering focus on Bibi Nagar no matter what. And it really reinforces the idea that this vow created this unbreakable link.
Hmm.
It's as if the tree or whatever speaking through it has been waiting for her. And this persistent calling it underscores the power of that original vow, as if the tree itself or something associated with it is now actively claiming what's due.
Oh, I see. So understandably, Bibi Nagar is, well, shaken by this eerie encounter. She runs home, tells her mother about the voice coming from the dry stump, the disembodied voice. And that's when her mother finally reveals the nazar she made all those years ago. Can you imagine the impact of that revelation on her? Like suddenly these strange occurrences have this whole new meaning.
It must have been a huge moment of understanding, right? The sudden illumination of a childhood mystery, the weight of a promise made before she even existed, suddenly becomes hers.
Right.
And the mother, recognizing how significant this event is, she doesn't dismiss it as like a childish fantasy.
Yeah.
Instead, she prepares Bibi Nagar to fulfill that vow, even in this, well, unexpected way.
Yeah, and the instructions are so specific, so symbolic, right? Bibi Nagar is dressed in these old, humble clothes, given a worn-out rug, nothing of value, and sent back to that dry stump with just one clear instruction: obey whatever it says.
Wow.
It's such a powerful visual representation of humility, servitude, and a willingness to fulfill the obligation, this debt.
Exactly. She approaches the stump not with fear, but with a sense of duty. She's ready to engage with this mysterious entity. And what happens next is a complete, I think, subversion of expectations.
I mean, for sure. So Bibi Nagar sits on the rug, waiting in this posture of obedience.
Right.
And then, boom, this frightening voice from the stump,
Oh.
identified itself as something neither human nor jinn, like this powerful, otherworldly being, but connected to this seemingly ordinary tree. But then, and this is a real twist, a young man just suddenly appears beside the stump. He introduces himself as Misas Kobar. What a surprise.
Oh, absolutely. It's so classic in folklore, isn't it? The supernatural it manifests in these unexpected ways, like you're anticipating this purely mystical encounter, and then boom, this human-like figure appears.
Yeah.
What do you think the shift signifies? I mean, could it be a way for the supernatural to interact with the human world more directly?
It's a really interesting question. Maybe it makes the interaction more, I don't know, tangible, more relatable for us as humans, right?
Yeah.
And with Misa Escobar's arrival, we have this incredible outpouring of wealth and magic, like beautiful carpets. They just appeared out of thin air, right? Along with this spinning wheel, but it's no ordinary spinning wheel.
No, not at all.
This is a magical artifact. You turn it to the right, it produces pure gold. Turn it to the left, precious rubies. It's unbelievable.
Suddenly, Bibi Nagar and her family's fortunes, transformed overnight, just like that.
Wow.
And the blessings, they don't stop there. All these expensive household items just appear as if conjured, from another realm.
It's amazing.
It's like the dry stump has become this gateway to unimaginable riches. And remember, these magical objects, they aren't just about wish fulfillment, right? They often come with inherent risks or responsibilities. It's a common theme in these narratives.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the fulfillment of the vow, but in a way that the mother could never have possibly envisioned.
Right.
I mean, the service to the tree has manifested not as literal servitude, but as these extraordinary material blessings.
Yeah.
And then Misas Kobar gives Bibi Nagar two very personal gifts, a beautiful turquoise ring and this very valuable fur coat.
And these gifts, they're not just tokens.
Right.
The fur coat especially comes with a very specific warning, almost ominous. Its preservation is directly linked to their connection.
Oh.
Any loss or damage to the coat will result in separation.
Wow.
So immediately it introduces this element of fragility, a potential for future conflict. It highlights that conditional nature of magical gifts in folklore.
Right. It's a classic setup, isn't it? Setting us up for a challenge. And then, just as mysteriously as he arrived, Misas Kobar departs, leaving Bibi Nagar with these incredible gifts, but also that ominous warning.
Now, while all this is happening, there's an unseen observer, Bibi Nagar's aunt, and her motives, they're not so good. She sees all these extraordinary events, but her primary concern isn't Bibi Nagar's good fortune, it's how she can exploit the situation for her own gain.
Oh, no.
Specifically, arranging a marriage between Bibi Nagar and her own son. Jealousy and self-interest, they become these powerful driving forces in our story.
Yeah, it's so true. The arrival of this This magical benefactor stirs up not only wonder, but also this deep-seated envy. And driven by her own selfish desires, the aunt tries to convince Bibi Negar to leave the dry stump and just come home, hoping to sever the connection to this source of magic and maybe control the wealth. But Bibi Negar, loyal to the source of her newfound blessings, she refuses.
So the aunt resorts to a, I think, much more insidious tactic, deceit. She offers to comb Bibi Negar's hair, right? It seems like an innocent gesture of familial affection.
Yeah,
But while she's combing, she continues, until Bibi Nagar falls unconscious, completely unsuspecting of the betrayal that's to come. It's a really low blow. It highlights that vulnerability of trust, that darkness that can lurk beneath seeming kindness.
it's just awful. A moment of profound vulnerability that the aunt just exploits. And her actions, they're so swift and devastating. She grabs that fur coat, the tangible symbol of Bibi Negar's connection to Misas Kabar, and she throws it into a tandoor, a traditional oven, burning it to ashes. A deliberate and malicious act of sabotage to sever that magical bond.
And when Bibi Nagar wakes up, that magical world she briefly inhabited is just gone. The carpets, the spinning wheel, the house, all gone. Only the dry stump remains, silent witness to her loss.
Oh, wow.
Along with her humble clothing and that turquoise ring on her finger, the devastation must have been immense.
It must have been. The loss of the coat especially, it signifies the breaking of that magical connection, the severing of her link to Misas Kabar. And Bibi Negar, she realizes the extent of the betrayal, and she takes action.
Yeah.
Like many determined protagonists in folklore, she tells her mother everything and then embarks on this quest, this perilous quest, to find Misas Kabar and restore what she lost.
And the quest is immediately fraught with hardship. She gets thirsty, right? But every time she encounters someone with water shepherds, camels herders, cow herds, they all refuse to give her a single drop.
What? Why?
Because their livestock, they bear Bibi Negar's seal on their ownership papers, signifying that they belong to Misas Kabar.
No way.
It's like his presence, his power, it permeates the land, yet he himself remains elusive.
Oh, that's such an ironic twist, isn't it? Her connection to Misas Kabar, which initially brought all these blessings, it now becomes an obstacle in her search for him. It highlights that complex, sometimes paradoxical nature of magical associations in these stories.
It does.
So she eventually encounters this young boy with a water flat at a spring. Again, she pleads for water, and again she's denied. The boy explains that the water belongs to Misas Kabar, and he's forbidden to give any away. And in a moment of just intense desperation, Bibi Negar utters a curse, wishing the water would turn to pus and blood.
That's such a powerful and kind of unexpected reaction, isn't it? It shows how much she's suffering, the raw emotion of her frustration. And it really is a testament to the magical undercurrent of this world, because the curse, it works. When the boy delivers the water to Misas Kabar, it has undergone this gruesome transformation.
Oh, wow. So Misas Kabar, he sees this bizarre, disturbing event, and he's astute. He questions the boy, who recounts his encounter with the thirsty girl and her curse. It's through this indirect and rather unpleasant exchange that he finally learns of Bibi Negar's desperate situation. And his response is immediate. He tells the boy to go back and offer her water.
It shows that despite the severed connection symbolized by the coat, his concern for her remains.
Yeah.
And Bibi Nagar, showing real resourcefulness, she drops her turquoise ring, a reminder of their past connection, into the flask before returning it. It's a subtle but incredibly significant act.
Absolutely. And when the boy brings the flask back, Misas Kabar recognizes the ring. It's his undeniable link to the girl who cursed the water. And then he sends Bibi Nagar a more welcoming gift this time, raisins and dates, a gesture of kindness and substance. But he still doesn't reveal their previous connection. Do you think maybe he's testing her or trying to understand what's happened?
It's a cautious approach, as if he needs to assess the situation before fully re-engaging.
Okay. And then he gives her this really cryptic and unsettling warning. Everyone in the area is a div, a demon. Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar, in Iranian folklore, divs are often malevolent, dangerous, supernatural beings. So he's essentially saying she's in very hostile territory. And he instructs her to cover herself in dirt, present herself as this unfortunate soul, and seek help from the divs to travel further, claiming she wants to join them. It's a bizarre and incredibly risky plan.
Absolutely. But Bibi Nagar trusts him and follows these instructions. She ventures into this community of divs, and their reactions are varied and, well, predictably hostile. Some want to kill her outright. Others want to imprison her. I mean, it's a testament to the perilous situation she's in. But then Misas Kobar, he intervenes.
He does.
He uses his influence to suggest they help her.
Hmm.
And surprisingly, the divs do provide her with assistance, and ultimately this leads Bibi Nagar to Misas Kobar's house. But here's a twist, a real shocker. His mother-in-law, his current wife's mother, is none other than her own aunt.
What? Are you serious? That's unbelievable. So while Bibi Nagar was suffering searching, her wicked aunt had not only betrayed her, but managed to marry her own daughter to Misas Kobar,
Yeah.
effectively stepping into the life that Bibi Nagar might have had. I mean, the audacity, the cruelty, it's just staggering.
It shows the aunt's relentless malevolence, her desire to just completely erase Bibi Nagar. Initially, the mother-in-law, the aunt, she's resistant to helping Bibi Nagar. But eventually, maybe because of Misas Kobar's influence, or maybe just some twisted sense of power, she agrees to let Bibi Nagar become a servant in the house.
A servant in the house.
Right, a position of utter humiliation and potential further abuse.
Oh, it's just awful. But this is all part of Misas Kobar's plan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So after 2 nights, under the guise of servitude, they prepare to escape. And they gather these items, these seemingly random items. Salt, iron, and an old sheepskin. They're going to play a crucial role in their escape. And then Misas Kobar does something really dark, something unsettling. He secretly kills his wife, Bibi Nagar's cousin, and leaves a note taking full responsibility, presumably to buy them time.
This act, while violent, is presented within the context of their desperate flight.
Right.
It removes a significant obstacle, and maybe it signifies his complete commitment to helping Bibi Nagar. So as they flee on horseback, the escape is discovered, of course. The aunt finds her daughter dead, and the note, and fueled by rage, she sets off in pursuit.
The chase is on. And Misas Kobar starts to use those seemingly random items. First, he throws the old sheepskin to the ground. And miraculously, it transforms into this huge, powering mountain, blocking the ant's path.
But the aunt, she's formidable. She manages to cross this first magical barrier. Next, Misas Kobar throws the iron, and it instantly becomes this massive, jagged iron mountain. Another seemingly insurmountable obstacle.
Wow. And can she cross it?
She does. With grim determination, she overcomes it.
Oh, no.
So finally, in a last desperate act, Misas Kobar throws the salt, and it transforms into a vast sea. He and Bibi Nagar manage to cross the water on their horses, but the aunt is left stranded on the shore.
She's trapped.
Defeated and facing, well, certain doom, the aunt begs for help. And Misas Kobar, in what seems like a moment of mercy, he points to a white spot in the water, suggesting it's a stone she can step on.
Oh, no.
But this act of apparent compassion is a trap. As the aunt reaches for the white spot, she loses her footing and drowns in the sea.
Ooh.
And then a portion of the seawater washes onto the shore and morphs into a beautiful gazelle.
What?
Misas Kobar and Bibi Nagar, they take the gazelle home, unaware of the danger it still represents.
I mean, this gazelle, it's beautiful, but something's not right?
Yeah, there's something off. And Bibi Nagar soon notices that whenever Misas Kobar is away, the gazelle acts really strange, aggressive towards her.
Aggressive.
The subtle but unsettling sign that something's amiss. Disturbed by this, Bibi Nagar asks Misas Kobar to kill the gazelle, but he refuses.
He refuses.
And then the terrifying truth is revealed. At night, the gazelle transforms into a human woman. It's the vengeful spirit, or maybe the transformed essence of the wicked aunt. And she unleashes this magic, putting everyone in the house, except for Bibi Nagar, into a deep sleep, trapped inside a glass bottle.
So even in death, even transformed, the ant's desire for revenge continues.
It's chilling, and her intentions are clear as she prepares this pot of boiling water. She's going to inflict serious harm on Bibi Nagar.
It's so awful. But in a moment of desperate, quick thinking, Bibi Nagar asks the ant for permission to pray before her doom. And she goes up to the roof, cries out for help, and just when all hope seems lost, there's divine intervention. A whore, a celestial maiden in Iranian mythology, and a pari, a fairy-like being known for their benevolent magic, they appear before her.
Wow.
And these celestial beings, they reveal the gazelle's true identity, her wicked plan, and they tell Bibi Nagar how to break the spell. Shatter the glass bottle.
The arrival of the whore in the party signifies a turning point, right? The forces of good intervening against this persistent evil.
Yeah.
So Bibi Nagar, she smashes the bottle, everyone in the house wakes up, and Misas Kobar, he finally sees everything, the gazelle's true nature, the extent of his aunt's lingering malice, and he finally acts, throws the gazelle into the boiling water, ending the threat.
And finally, she's gone. But the story's not quite over yet, is it?
No, not yet. Misas Kobar, he reveals that all the trouble, all of it, stemmed from his own aunt, who of course was also Bibi Negar's aunt and his former mother-in-law.
Right. It's all connected.
He gives Bibi Negar the glass bottle that held everyone's sleep and instructs her to go to the aunt's house, but for a very specific task.
Oh, interesting. What does he tell her to do?
First, he tells her to greet the aunt's spirit. Then she has to go to where the straw was usually placed before the dog and the bones before the camel and sweep them, like righting a small but significant wrong.
Hmm.
Then she needs to find a neglected garden called Sozan Sanjak, which means pin needle, and water it, but also address it with affection. Call it Garden John, Dear Garden. It's an act of nurturing, bringing life back to a place that's withered under the aunt's neglect.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And finally, she has to enter this dusty room with dirty bedding and clean and tidy it. It represents this purification of a space tainted by negativity.
It's like a Klesi ritual. So the aunt appears and asks Bibi Nagar to comb her hair.
Chilling, isn't it? Like an echo of that earlier betrayal.
Yeah.
Bibi Nagar does it, continues until the aunt falls asleep, then strikes her head hard on the ground and runs.
Wow.
And as she escapes, the aunt commands her animals, her possessions, to seize her, but they all refuse. They cite Bibi Nagar's past kindness and the aunt's cruelty.
They remember her goodness?
They do. Even the dog, who the aunt had cruelly fed straw instead of bones, remembers Bibi Nagar's compassion.
It's amazing.
And the dog turns on the aunt and kills her. Justice served through the unexpected loyalty of the mistreated.
It's really poetic justice. So finally, with the aunt gone, the cycle of betrayal and vengeance ends. Bibi Nagar returns to Misas Kobar and he transforms, sheds his div form, and becomes fully human. Their connection is solidified in the human realm.
And they live happily ever after, a classic ending, hard-earned after overcoming immense adversity. And this story, it's rich with moral lessons and meaning, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the story powerfully illustrates the importance of keeping promises, even ones made before we were born.
Right.
It shows the destructive power of jealousy and betrayal embodied by the ant. And it celebrates kindness and resilience, the qualities that Bibi Nagar shows throughout her journey.
It does, and the symbolism, it's so layered. The dry tree, seemingly lifeless, becomes the source of transformation, representing potential, perhaps. The magical objects given to Bibi Nagar, they symbolize fortune, but also the responsibility that comes with it. The fur coat, a symbol of trust, broken when the bond is betrayed.
And all the transformations, the gazelle, Misas Koar, they highlight how deceptive appearances can be, and the importance of inner character. Even the obstacles Bibi Nagar faces, they represent the challenges we all have in life.
Yeah, you're right.
So from a simple wish to a barren tree to a perilous journey filled with magic, betrayal, and ultimately triumph, the story of Bibi Nagar offers a truly rich tapestry of Iranian folklore. It shows how these fantastical tales, they reflect human experiences and values that we all share.
They do.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the enchanting world of Iranian folklore, well, be sure to subscribe to Iranian Things so you don't miss any of our future explorations. We love to hear your thoughts and interpretations, so leave a comment and give this deep dive a like if you found it intriguing.
And for more captivating stories and discussions about Iranian culture, make sure to check out our Iranian Things playlist. You'll find a whole treasure trove of deep dives waiting for you.
And finally, considering this dry tree that started everything and the power of belief and vows in Bibi Nagar's destiny, it makes you wonder. What seemingly insignificant things, what promises in our own lives might hold this unexpected power, this potential for change, for transformation, just waiting to be revealed.
Something to think about.
Until next time.